Yeah, I think we look good.
Do we look good?
Oh, sure we do. Oh, yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead. Who are
I'm
you?
Amanda.
And I'm Peggy.
And you're watching the Junction Fbier Mill
Millcast.
Millcast.
Yeah.
I am freshly back from the Midwest. We got back yesterday, and I just want to brag a little bit. Our flight left Minnesota at 5:45 in the morning.
Yowzer.
And we had a fine day. So
Excellent.
there you go.
Excellent.
The kids were
you
great.
flying into Boston?
Yep, we flew into Boston and we landed around like 11:30 in the morning. We had all the time in the world to get home, get settled before the week. It was totally the way to do it.
Excellent.
From a prior, like, let's push vacation days to the last possible minute.
Yeah.
Like, even by the end of the day yesterday, I was like, we really filled that time we had to recombobulate. But like this morning, I feel kind of back to normal, which is huge. So it was great.
Okay, we have to talk about what you're wearing.
Oh, I did not knit this. I'm sure a human did knit this, but it is, it actually was a gift to Cody's grandmother who passed away a few years ago from Cody's family when they all went to Iceland together.
Oh, all right.
And so they were like, okay, we have this it's a vest actually. I really love it. It's a sweater vest. Who would wear a wool sweater vest? Amanda would wear a wool sweater vest, so I got to be the beneficiary.
Okay,
of this.
she thought I was talking about the sweater.
Oh! Yes, you're totally right. My new glasses, folks. I supported my local eyewear store in Norwich, Artisan Eyewear. Natalie, thank you very much. Not Natalie, my mother-in-law, Natalie, the store owner, but they are these bright red glasses, and the coolest part about them is they have magnets in the frames, so I can put sunglasses.
Which is just really wild. I have another friend who does that. I think that's very clever.
It's so good. I've gotten a lot of compliments on them. I'm excited. I've never had such bold, bright glasses.
Yeah, you got red.
Yeah, and it goes, I've been wearing my little Sophie scarf a lot, and it just like matches.
You just need to go to a cafe and
I look like a Parisian art teacher.
You got to take up smoking.
I totally.
I got to tell you what I'm wearing. I don't know if you've seen this. I spun this years ago.
It's gorgeous.
It's out of Teeswater. It's got a luster to it, but it's really heavy and dense warm. It got a little chilly in our house. The temperature has dropped rather quickly around here. Yeah. And I saw this pattern. I saw this knit on somebody else. And I said to the person, and it was a woman named Paula Ahrens, whom we've talked about, but at the time I didn't know Paula. And I said, God, I love what you're wearing. And she said, oh, so-and-so knit it. She never has a pattern. I said, really? Can I take a picture? And I figured it out. It's from the top down, and it's just the cable gets fatter and fatter. So in the beginning, it's just 2.
Yep.
And then it works its way up.
Yeah, what do you end up at? Like
3 and 3, 6, and you add a little space in between. So in the beginning, there's only 1, and then there's a couple.
Oh, it's fantastic! I love this sort of scalloped
and
edge.
The scallop,
is that what you would call that?
Yeah, but it's self-scalloping because the cable brings it in.
Yeah,
but that's where it's at.
Oh, it looks so cozy.
It's very cozy, and I just yesterday I was in the living room going, the house is not warming up fast enough, and I was like, where is that? I guess we call it a shrug.
Capelet,
what is it called? Whatever.
Capelet.
But it's super warm because the Teeswater is a heavy, and I kind of spun it a little on the heavy side. Yeah. So
it's fun to see hand spun too, because you just get to see the little bit of inconsistency.
And it's funny because now that we own a mill, I don't do so much hand spinning. Like, But anyway.
But if you don't own a mill, which is probably most of you, highly recommend hand spinning.
Yeah, hand spinning's good.
Yeah.
We had a terrific Thanksgiving extended time. Our grandkids were over. Emma, Malcolm, and Will, 4.5, 3.5, and 1. And both my daughters were there with their spouses. And oh man, we went cutting Christmas trees with the boys.
Oh, nice.
A lot of it was about what can we do to help these parents get a break. So we did some different outings and went go sledding in the backyard and
because we got some snow around here.
Well, and it came in just at the right time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because the kids got there and just in time as it was.
The roads were fine on the way up.
And then
we're not going anywhere.
We're not going anywhere. No, but our driveway got plowed in a reasonable period of time, so everybody was safe. Everybody was good.
That's great.
Yeah, it was just a terrific holiday, and it's a little exhausting to take care of grandkids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were the lucky recipients of the grandparent care on the flip side of that. So we went home to the Midwest. Our first Thanksgiving back there since Cody and I met 8 years ago. So we haven't we haven't celebrated Turkey Day since then with our family, so it was really nice to sort of go from house to house to house. If you catch my downside of this whole trip is we're both from the Midwest, so it was like 2 days here, 2 days there, 2 days there.
Yeah,
but we saw everybody basically.
Good.
We missed some extended family, but it was the brothers, sisters, parents of Cody and I. We visited everyone, and the kids were troopers. We only had like one pretty bad car ride, and the rest of them were fine. But yeah, similarly, like we found activities to do. We went out to the Madison, Wisconsin Children's Museum. That was awesome. The kids loved that. They loved that.
Yeah, you got to appreciate children's museums. We've been to the Portland Children's Museum a number of times. Man, it's so impressive.
Yeah, but mostly the kids just enjoyed like going to new houses, playing with their toys, moving on to the next one. So it was delightful. And Cody and I got a little bit of a break, which was good.
Which is good. Yeah, which is very good. It's been busy though. Meanwhile, at the mill, while we were sort of celebrating, we went ahead and had our
holiday sale.
Our holiday sale, Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
We're recording on Cyber Monday, so by the time you see this, it'll be over.
Yeah,
but it's our biggest offer of the year.
And we can't thank you enough for stepping up and enjoying some of the sale, and hopefully you'll enjoy some of the yarn.
Yeah, we've got our work cut out for us.
Yes, today's going to be a busy day. Yeah.
Yes, it will. So anyways, we've had we do have one thing to share with you, one new product that we're launching.
This is so fun. You saw pictures
I feel like we
of
need
it.
to like imagine like the Mariah Carey song on in the background. Like moving over, Thanksgiving done. Now we're moving on to Christmas. Yeah. Okay.
But you did see the background. You saw it in progress with this is the candy cane, and it was in its varying stages of getting spun, and now it is spun, and it is just so cute. And it's in DK weight, so it's a quick knit. And someone commented on the last Millcast when we brought it up of, well, you do a swatch. So I was like, of course we'll do a swatch.
And actually, I think it is such a good idea because it's crucial to note. We've done marled yarns in the past that are straight up marled. This has some variegation in it. It's very subtle, but it isn't like there is going to be some color changing. So you can see like it's not just the camera here. It is darker on top.
Right, and then it gets a little bit lighter.
More
it's very subtle, but you also get the straight up, what does the marled look like? And it's, I think it's adorable.
I think so too. And it's going to get you in the holiday spirit. It's sort of this lovely like cranberry to cherry red. And then we have a strand of just the undyed to complement it. Yeah. So knit Christmas
get yourself
season.
In the Christmas spirit.
We've got this available today. At 10 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. So get yourself some cranberry.
We have what we have. When we're out of it, we're out of it.
That's right.
But yeah, have a little fun with candy cane.
Yes. So I had a really fun opportunity when I was home in the Midwest. It was Cody's idea. I want to give him full credit.
I love this.
Yeah, so Cody's folks live on the outskirts of the Twin Cities, and just south of them, I believe it's south, is the town of Faribault, Minnesota.
Faribault, Minnesota.
And if you drive into the town, you can't miss it. There's Faribault Woolen Mill. And it is right on the river because it's a mill that's been around for 150 years. Yes. So back in the olden days, they didn't have electricity, so it was being
powered by the water.
Exactly. Yeah. So I called ahead and got us on the tour for the Saturday, and then was able to sit down with
most of you. I hope you've heard of Faribault blankets. It's just it's a classic. It's It's an American brand.
Yes.
I went to college just down the street from it and never visited it, so I can't wait to enjoy this tour.
Yeah. So I think it maybe makes sense to just give a little bit of an overview, and I can place some photos on top of it, and then I have an interview as well. But the mill itself, like I said, it's over 150 years old. Mm-hmm. They don't scour there, so I should say that they get it scoured elsewhere. But other than that, what they do is 22 different steps. I'm not going to name them all here, but they have 22 steps in their process. So that means they're a vertically integrated mill, one of only 2 in the country at this point. Can you guess the other one?
Is this the one? No, well, that's not the United States. I don't. Oh, Pendleton.
Bingo. Pendleton. So only Pendleton is left. It's Faribault and Pendleton. And I would venture to guess, of the 2, Pendleton you've probably heard of more. So Faribault, for whatever reason, is kind of more of a secret among the wool lovers.
Well, but am I right that Faribault doesn't do like coats and jackets and they're strictly blankets?
They are branching out a little bit now, but for the most part, it's blankets and bedding.
Right.
They had some other like I don't want to cheapen it. I would call them knickknacks, but sort of like things like
right. But I think that's one of the big differences is Pendleton has always also had
shirts,
the apparel and coats.
Right. So Faribault primarily focuses on blankets, and a large part of their business is actually that they have the U.S. military contract to do wool blankets. So from way back in the olden days, they've been producing blankets for Army and Navy and the various different.
Am I right though? Is all the wool sourced from the U.S. from the United States, or we're not sure?
Not all of the stuff that they do, but for the U.S. military, I believe so, because I think that's part of the deal, right? Is the U.S. wants it all to be from the U.S.
Very interesting.
I know that they do also get wool from New Zealand and different parts of the world, but you can definitely find 100% American made there. Cool. So anyways, they don't scour, they get it scoured. It arrives like it does here sometimes, so we get the big bale of clean wool. And then what they do is pick, card, and you're going to see these enormous carding machines. They're like the size of our whole mill, maybe a little bit bigger, and then they have 6 of them. And it's incredible because I recognize them, but they're also
on jumbo,
it's
on
a
steroids
version.
All right.
And they're a woolen mill, so similar to Green Mountain would be the closest one
Green
to
Mountain
us.
Spinnery.
So they have a little bit different process. They don't take roving off of the end like we do in a big fat one where we're taking the whole web and making a big strand of roving. They end up with pencil roving on a spool, which they then take and spin on their spinning frames, of which they have like each face of them has like 72, and then there's like I did the back of the napkin. It's well over 1,100 spindles.
Where and what step are they dyeing?
So
or are they dyeing there?
I think they have they do dye there. Okay. We didn't get to see the dyeing area, so I did skip that part. But they do dye. I think it's in the like basement level, and they described them in the video before we did the tour as like giant pressure cookers.
Okay. So they're dyeing the clean raw wool.
I think occasionally they over dye blankets as well.
Okay. But when they're picking and carding it, it's dyed.
Yeah, and you'll see they have this really cool machine. It's like it's a scale essentially, but it's like the scale is the floor. So there's like this basket, and the floor drops out to weigh it. Yeah. So you put your wool in, and they're really meticulously measuring. For like I think it was the Navy as the gray blankets. They need that same gray every time. So they made it very clear to us they're not dyeing gray. They're taking their white and they're dyed black, which is consistent, and they're doing a very
careful, which we know that. Yeah, is it 5%?
Scale, but then
very
it's
cool.
So cool, Peg. The floor then of the scale drops out after they're done weighing it, and it goes down to the level below, and it's like on a conveyor belt, I think, up to the picker. Oh. And so and the picker, and it shoots up the floor above. So this is a 3-story picking process. It was so incredible to see.
Wow.
Very cool. So then after that, it goes through one of 6 giant carders, which seems to card it like 2 or 3 times. I think Green Mountain has a similar thing where their carders make like a web, a sheet, and then it sort of gets laid the opposite direction and gets carded again just to make sure, because the
everything's
process,
getting really well blended.
They want it to be blended, but also they actually want those fibers to be like this rather than like this.
Right.
So they do it like this one way, and then they make it like this, and then it's pencil roving.
Wow.
From there, it goes on to one of 1,100 or more spindles.
Yeah.
Woolen spun again, so they're not drafting. They don't need pin drafted. It goes right from the pencil roving to the spinner.
Right.
I believe they're mostly working with singles, and the designer I spoke to is not on the production side of it, so she wasn't exactly sure.
Right.
But my understanding is they take those singles, they cone them, so they take them from the bobbin, they cone wind them, and then they set them. This is where it was all new to me. They set them up on these absolutely giant frames where they have to hand thread each and every string yarn, and they create. I wish I had a number here for you, but it's like rows and rows and rows of these cones where the threads are meticulously fed onto this what looks like a giant spool, and that's the warp.
Oh, okay.
So and then they have a machine that winds the warp, but it's hand threaded through all those.
Okay.
Enormous. And then they set the warp up on one of their 2 types of mills. They've got jacquard and dobby. Dobby is the older style.
They're weaving looms.
Yes, they're weaving looms. What did I say?
Mill.
Okay, they're looms.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But yeah, the dobby ones are the ones that have been around forever. They sort of have the different, like you would picture a loom, I guess, where you've got your different gates that go up and down to make the different patterns. And then they've also got brand spanking new jacquard looms, which are computer driven, so that they can basically create whatever you can create in a vector file on a computer.
Right, like to have some designs.
You can and so they do a lot with different IP. They've got the Charles Schultz stuff, so all the Charlie Brown characters they can do. They do this map series where they've got different lakes, and people buy them for their cabins, and they've got different sports teams.
That's what I was wondering, if they do
the
sports.
Logos.
Yeah.
So you'll see some of the companies that hire them.
Wonder if they do the Minnesota Vikings. No. Anyway.
Probably.
Yeah.
So it's really, really cool. And then from there, so after it's woven, there's another 10 steps. So that woven blanket is not actually soft yet or finished. So they have these special washers that basically felt it.
Mm-hmm.
So because
slightly felt it, right.
Actually,
there's a word for it.
Quite a lot.
Yeah, but there's another word
walking.
Foul begins with an F. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, yeah. So they put them through this it's a lot of agitation. It's a lot of hot water. They shrink down a lot. They get felted, and then they put it through. I'm probably skipping steps here, but they put it through this amazing, brand new. Guess where it's from? Piece of equipment. Where do you get mill equipment in the world?
Ramella?
Italy. Ramella's tiny. This is huge. This is an over some millions of dollars piece of equipment. The Italian, they were describing and then the Italians came and installed it. I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. But it's this giant wringer outer. It's like a giant squeegee. So they put it, and then they put it through this dryer. And the fancy Italian dryer not only gets it dry, but it doesn't warp it at all, because this is expensive fabric to produce. They cannot have they do a lot of plaids and stuff on the Dobby looms. They can't have those.
Yeah, they don't want it at an angle. Right, sure.
And then we didn't see this floor, but the final step is they take it up to a sewing, cutting floor where they'll cut it. They'll do the blanket stitches and all this. And I didn't even mention there's cool steps to add, the fringes. There's fringe machines.
Sure. Yeah.
There's
I think Amanda had a good time.
It was amazing. I want to explain it here because my interview, we don't go into a lot of depth on this stuff. So then I got to sit down after it was like a 2-hour tour. It was amazing. Sat down with one of the designers, and I'll let her take it from there.
Wow. Enjoy.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. Actually, for inviting me to your space. I'm actually not in Vermont anymore. We're in Faribault, Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And I'm at the Faribault Woolen Mill. It's ginormous compared to Junction Fbier Mill.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's pretty big, although we're one of 2 vertically integrated woolen mills left in the U.S. So we're probably small overall, but...
on the global scheme of things. So it's you guys and...
Pendleton
at this point.
Yep, and I've heard some things about they're not maybe making their own yarn anymore, but I don't know.
Okay, all right, we'll keep that on the down. But you guys very much are making your own yarn.
Yep.
So what all happens in this building? Not in this beautiful room that we're in now, but just outside the door.
So everything from fiber to finished product. So we get in bales of fiber that are bigger than me, and then we process that. It comes washed, but we do pretty much everything after that.
Okay.
Carding, spinning, weaving, napping, finishing. There's a lot more steps in there. 22 steps, I think, in the whole process, but it would start from the very basics, and then we end up with either blankets and throws, sometimes finished bags and other products too.
And you guys, I'm assuming you don't sell these, but we're actually sitting on top of some Faribault made
yeah, we have some
wool
fun
here
with our product. It's not necessarily the best upholstery fabric because you need that nylon for stabilizing, but it is fun to have some pops of product.
So you grabbed a few blankets to show off too. Do you want to tell us what we're looking at?
Yeah, so the 2 types of weaving that we do here in the mill are either Dobby or Jacquard. And our Dobbies, this is a good example. This is our mini haha.
Mini haha?
Yes, we name it after the Minnehaha Falls in Minneapolis. Okay. So a lot of our products have Minnesota-based names.
I love it.
Yeah. And then... sorry. Let me scratch that back. I thought it was the Minnehaha. This is our Northfield plaid.
Okay.
Northfield is a town just over here. So it's, a lot of the Minnesota focus. But the Northfield plaid is fun because it's a common warp. So we can do fun colors on a common warp. What does that mean? So that means that the warp, which is here vertical, is the pattern across the whole beam. And that provides the length of the yardage, and then we can pop in color stripes.
Like the red that we're seeing here.
So there's no red in the warp, so that means once we stop doing the red, we can do blue, we can do green.
Yep.
And but it can all be on the same beam of fabric.
Okay.
One of the little efficiencies.
It's wildly time consuming to do that warp, it looks like.
Yeah, and for our wool products, we have some higher speed looms, but it's still, that one yarn is fed through by a pair of hands and a set of eyes. So every, a hand has touched every part of your blanket when you've received it.
That's incredible. One of the things that stood out to me, it was, I think, on one of the Dobby looms, was in the mill right now, you're switching out one of them from one blanket run or one fabric run to the next. Yep. And I heard you're tying by hand all of the knots, and there's like thousands of them. I think across a beam of fabric, it's 1,600. Oh my gosh.
And it depends. Some are wider, but that tends to be, at least on 1,600.
So by hand tying these little knots, it's incredible.
And that's just to get it into the loom, to get it onto the beam at first. Somebody else did that individually onto the big thing. And then, so when they feed it through the loom, rather than cutting off, having to refeed everything through much like you might do with your sewing machine at home, you leave the end, tie it off, pull it through. Yeah. But that's, it's not a fast process. And then our cotton blankets that are made in Maine, the fringe you see was hand knotted. So the hands are all, people forget how much hands are involved even in when the machine is there. Right. I mean, it's a giant factory. But actually, on that point, how many folks are in the mill working on a day-to-day basis? It depends on the production side versus our office and direct-to-consumer kind of shipping floors. We have about 70 people. Oh my goodness. It's not a lot of people, but 70 seems huge to me. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But that's also split between our factory in Maine and here. So it's in terms of how many people produce the blankets, it's not that many. Well, so in the mill, I want to get back to the other blanket, but just to back up, so in the mill itself, I definitely, like at Junction Fbier Mill, we have a carder, much smaller. We are going from fleece to yarn, and our process is a semi-worsted process, so it differs a little bit. But when I saw your carder, it looked familiar, but like giant. And not only giant times 6. You've got 6 different ones. I mean, it's just incredible. And you guys are a woolen mill, so then you're taking that into the pencil roving. You're spinning it. I did a little quick math, but I'd love if you have the actual number. Do you have something like 1,100 spindles in there? That sounds possible. It's wild because it looked like each of those machines on each face was like 72, and then there's that sounds 6 or 8 of them, or like we have 12 at our mill, so that's the type of scale we're talking about. Oh yeah. And then from there, it's like all new to me because I'm not a weaver at all. So I was learning a lot about the various different processes. So from spinning, you're going to take that yarn into the cone, and then from there, you had said some words. What happens from there? So once it's on the cones, then they apply it. They apply the twist, and then they twist different pieces together to create the thicker yarns that we use in our processes. Okay, so you are using plied yarn. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Definitely plied, or definitely spun. Sometimes. Not always plied. Not always plied. Okay, so sometimes you ply it, but then what's the weaving steps from there? So you make the yarn, but that's not where you end your process. Correct. To get it into a blanket, there's a whole bunch more that happens. Yeah, so we our blankets in the Dobby form are using wool in both directions, and so we'll weave those. It's usually we're doing things in the twill realm, nothing too complicated. Is this twill? What this would be a right-handed twill. Okay, yes. We're getting technical. Yes, exactly. Okay. Twill is a fairly straightforward weave. So most of the interest, I'm going to call it interest here, is like the different colored yarns. Yep, the stripes and plaids. Okay, and then we have Dobby, jacquard. The jacquard is a different story, it looks like. Exactly. I should have maybe picked a slightly more complicated design because we can do multiple colors. I have some photos from our tour I can throw up as well. Awesome. But here we have cotton in the warp. Okay. So that's providing some of the stability, and then the wool can be like, we can do up to 4 colors across the throw, widthwise. And that's where we can get into the fun patterns and things like that. And you can get, shapes that are not just lines through the jacquard weaving. And then the jacquard has more flexibility to change what yarn is coming to the front. So that's where we get the multiple colors. So when it's just 2, the opposite colors at the back. Mm-hmm. But when you have 3 or 4
so you can actually see that pretty obviously here.
Yep. When you have 3 or more colors, the 2 colors that are not used get pushed to the back, but then they kind of create a blended tone. So on some things it can work out pretty cool that the back is more interesting than the front in some ways. But
and you've got the Charlie Brown characters, you've got all sorts of fun like maps that you guys are doing. I'd be curious to hear, because it looked like the jacquard looms are fairly new in the mill. Is that something Faribault has started doing recently?
No, I think we got our first jacquard looms in the 80s.
Okay.
I think they tend to be probably a more complicated loom that maybe needs to be replaced more frequently, because a lot of our looms are, from when we bought them at whatever stage in our 160-year history. Yeah. And we just, maintain as much as we can rather than buying new. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure you saw the dryer. The dryers are
that is incredible.
Most high-tech piece of equipment in here. But I was here. I toured the mill before they got rid of that. And it's kind of insane how, that looks just like, sometimes the old things you're like, I cannot believe that functioned. But we, keep them alive as long as possible.
Yep, and then you have the brand new Italian dryer. Oh, it's gorgeous and also very intimidating.
Yeah, I don't run it, thank goodness.
Yeah. So, tell me, Signe, what do you do at Faribault?
So I design. I do design and technical design. I actually work with our artists who do small collections with us. So I'm their interface and sometimes the one who's making the artwork off of the previous designs. Mm-hmm. And on the technical design front, I mostly work with our sewn goods, but I've been learning. My coworker Stevie's really knowledgeable on the weaving front, so I've been getting trained and learning all about that. But my level of knowledge, is surface. Okay. But it's really cool to be working in a place where that depth of knowledge is even possible. Yeah. We're so rare these days. Yeah. So it's really fascinating to come to our work every day and find out what the new challenge is. Mm-hmm. Because even though we are a company with 160 years of history, most of us, haven't worked here for longer than 5 to 10 years or even shorter than that. And a lot of us don't come from a weaving background or even a wool spinning or anything. Yeah. So in some ways we're like a brand new startup, just trying to like poke and prod, like, what does this thing do? Yeah. But then we have the history to draw on, which is really, really exciting.
To that front, we mentioned how there's only really one vertically integrated mill like this in the country right now. What are some of the challenges and opportunities you see for American manufacturing like this, especially in the wool industry, I guess?
Yeah, I think it's getting connected, because I think that there's a lot of places where people have bought, businesses that either have been dead for some time or, the equipment it needs to be revived, or just existing businesses passing along. I think in a lot of ways, like when we search for manufacturers to help us out, because we can't do everything. Sometimes it's kind of hard to find those other people to work with. So it's a little bit of just information sharing. But I think maybe it's like a connecting with a brand, manufacturer, and then somebody with a smaller footprint to try to create an ecosystem. It's interesting because like some of the bigger brands with the money and the sort of the footprint to throw behind elevating some things are there. It's just kind of corralling it all. I don't know if that makes sense.
What I'm hearing is we all need to help each other out to continue to tell folks, first of all, that this exists, because this is incredible, and what a gem to have this in Faribault, Minnesota, and be able to come visit it and get to learn. But not only that, you're making incredible products. but you got to kind of do everything in terms of like marketing and stuff too.
Yeah, we have an interesting business model where we sell to individuals walking into our store. We sell online, but we also do custom, and then we do contracts. So if you join the Army, you get a Faribault Mill blanket.
I'm actually so shocked by that in this day and age that we're still giving folks wool blankets. I'm totally stoked about it, but it is shocking, and I'm very glad.
Yeah, I think it might.
And they're all coming from you guys.
Yeah, yep.
They're all the military blankets are made here.
Yep. I think it might come down to wool being, obviously it's kind of like nature's performance fiber. Has been functional for humans for thousands of years. I think it also, with the military contracts, the fiber has to be domestic. The thread has to be domestic. So it's fascinating to learn how the Army and the military is so focused on domestic production made in the USA. It may be that it's more difficult. And I think cotton doesn't have as much thermal quality. So it's probably limited, when you focus on made in the USA, that's what you kind of have to lean on, which is good for us, but also I think just also highlights that wool is a performance fiber.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, so it makes the business very interesting to be catering to like every possible audience.
So what's how does that break down for you guys out of curiosity with like percentage wise? So you've got your contracts, you've got your I call this direct to consumer business, and then you've got your custom work, which is like if Junction Fbier Mill wanted to say do a custom line of blankets, we could call you guys up and design a blanket with you, correct?
Yeah, and it could be, you want something to sell, or you just want to put the Junction Fbier Mill on the middle of a blanket and use that for your own purposes. We have both those types of custom clients. I don't know completely what the current layout is, but I would say we're probably 25% contract, maybe of that next majority direct to consumer. Or maybe it's split.
Okay, so it sounds like it's pretty even.
Yeah, I'd say it's sizable chunks of both, or of all of the different avenues that our business is coming from.
Signe, thank you so much. I learned so much on my tour. I'm just like feeling inspired and also grateful that I also get to work in a wool mill. Isn't life great?
It is. It's really it's an exciting thing to see something come from, literally nothing.
Yeah, it's unorganized, chaotic, natural, beautiful wool, and then you make this blanket, which you can, I'm just sitting with it on my lap. I want to take it home. It's so warm and cozy. It's great. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
So it was fantastic.
We need to expand.
I think what we really need to do is create a custom blanket with them, but more on that later, because they, as we talked about in the interview, a big part of their business now is manufacturing for other brands. So you can send them your designs and then they'll manufacture, and they do as few as the runs they do are pretty small for these brands. So very cool. I know that Cody's company that he works for did a custom gift with them one year. So we've got
interesting.
In our house we probably have about 5 Faribault blankets. We're big fans.
Wow. Well, thank you. That was really very, very cool.
And, you're seeing this ahead of holidays, so maybe another gift idea if you have someone who could use a wool blanket.
You can't go wrong with a wool blanket.
You really can't. And seriously, they never need to be cleaned. Pet hair is the worst for them, but otherwise, Clara Parks, who we've interviewed, has talked about this, the snow bath, where especially if you live in colder climates, she claims the best thing to do with a wool blanket to clean it is when you're going to get a big snowfall, lay the blanket outside, let it get snowed on, and then, dry it out afterward, put it in, over a line or whatnot. She said that basically it's enough moisture and the freezing temperature of it just freshens the fabric.
And does it repel the dirt that was on there that caused you to want?
Apparently, I don't know. She's got a whole video or article or something about this.
This is Clara Parks, the author of Vanishing Fleece, and we interviewed her not quite yet a year ago.
I think every year when the snow starts flying for her in Maine, she puts out a newsletter that's how to clean your wool, give your wool blankets a snow bath. I've never tried it, but
no, I haven't either.
Anyways, back to this little mill.
Yeah, this little mill. We had a little bit of an accident. Nobody got hurt, but one of the belts that's a critical piece to one of our spinners
not the new one,
not the new one,
older
the older one, which is where we do the plying. got
Here,
a little
I've
slice
got a little,
in it.
a little.
Oh,
show and tell.
yeah. This is the belt. This is not the belt that got injured, but
This is just for visual. This is what
right.
we're talking about. This gets the spindles going.
It gets woven. It gets threaded in and around the spindles that keeps them all spinning at the same rate.
Yep.
And it got a little slice in it, and we absolutely need to get it repaired so that we can keep on spinning.
Yeah.
That's what goes on in the mill.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got. I'm watching a truck drive by on the thing. We had an open house. No, we had.
Holiday shopping hours.
Shopping. First one was this past Saturday, which was delightful.
Yep.
Elise held the fort down.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to continue to have holiday shopping hours on Saturdays for the remaining Saturdays of December.
Except
10 to 1.
for the last one.
Yeah, the last one. Christmas is on a Tuesday. So
well,
yeah,
I think there's one more. Anyways,
7, 14, and 21.
10 to 1 here
10
at the
to
mill.
1. Yeah, and we're going to do an open house as well.
Yes, and you may be asking, what is the difference? The main thing is we're only staffing the retail hours with one person, so we can't really do.
Yeah, it's not about tours.
It's just for shopping. You want to shop in person. If you want to come for the tour, come for the open house, which is December 13th. That's a Friday from 3 to 5.
3 to 5. Yeah, Friday the 13th. What could go wrong? Nothing. Nothing. Yeah. Well, we're back. It's the holidays, but Thanksgiving was a big deal. Yeah. For both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in. And like Peg said, thanks again for supporting us in your holiday shopping and hopefully, enjoying what you're making on your needles. Yeah. And we don't have any knitting to show this time, but promise to bring some next week.
Yeah, no, I did try the Dustland sweater on my son-in-law. Looks like it's going to be fine, so I got to keep going.
Split for the sleeves time, right?
Not quite.
Okay.
Yeah,
a little bit
but
more.
soon.
Okay, all right, but you don't have to backtrack.
No, I do not have to backtrack.
That's always a relief.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Thank you so much.